Lord Belmonent desperately begs Takeru to save his wife. Takeru explains he cannot use his mass mana technique on Lady Mutated. He focuses instead on her immediate pain, light sensitivity. Using a gentle, controlled heal spell, Takeru treats her damaged eyes. She opens them, finding her vision perfectly restored, pain-free. Encouraged, Takeru cleanses the room with clean magic and opens the windows, flooding the space with light. Lady Mutated weeps tears of joy. The light no longer hurts her, and she embraces her husband. Takeru places an orange Magistone safeguard near her room in case she is attacked. While Clay celebrates, Takeru remains focused. The poisoning persists. Takeru and Lord Belmonent move to the library to discuss the Ivor toxin. They quickly deduce someone must be poisoning Lady Mutated. When Takeru asks for an antidote, the Lord reveals the poison and its cure were lost to time. Ingredients for both have been forgotten for centuries. Desperate, Belmonent shows Takeru his family book collection. Many are in an ancient language. Thanks to a decipher skill Takeru learned from an adventurer's diary, and his adapted search skill, Busca, Takeru finds the relevant journal. The journal, belonging to Pola Pola, describes finding the sparkly gold Ivor flower by a horse-shaped rock near a huge lake. Clayston identifies the location, Asheth village in the Vanon region. Despite the 5-day journey, Takeru declares, they must leave immediately. As they prepare to leave, the treacherous butler, Bernard, sends a pigeon out a window. Lady Tiaris rushes up to Takeru, filled with remorse, and apologizes for her earlier rudeness. Takeru accepts her apology, giving her vital advice. If anyone tries to manipulate her, she must use Hurenso, report, contact, consult, immediately with her father. Once away from the castle, Takeru uses quick and reduction to dramatically increase their speed, leaving Clay astonished. They arrive at Asheth village, finding it a barren wasteland. Takeru scans Lake Galeus and discovers it was deliberately contaminated with Paleocin toxin. The lake is polluted. They encounter starving, weakened villagers. The villagers reveal that 10 months ago, the lake and wells were poisoned. A merchant, Ngash, arrived, offering water in exchange for the village's sacred shiny flowers, the Ivor flower, known to them as the divine flower. To keep themselves alive, they made a deal with Engachi to trade clean water for 1 Ivor flower per month. Engache's water wasn't enough, leading to crop failure and famine. Takeru furiously exposes Engache, a villain who intentionally contaminated the lake to exploit their resource. Vowing revenge on Engachi, Takeru commands B to use spirit arts. B lets out a mighty roar, summoning a downpour to revive the land. Once the rain stops and the sun shines, Takeru uses his Teldrassail staff to cast clean on the villagers and repair on the village structures. He then uses his cooking skills to feed everyone nourishing soup. As repayment, Takeru only asks to be shown the Ivor flower so he can manufacture an antidote. The chief agrees. The village children, now lively, swarm Takeru, offering to take him to their secret base, a barn where they store the sweet nectar from the salty lidas fruit, whose juice is identical to soy sauce. Back at the mansion, Takeru's Magistone alarm rings. Lady Tiaris rushes to investigate and finds Bernard at the door. He tries to discredit Takeru, but Tiaris immediately reports the incident to Lord Belmonent, using Ho Renso. In the study, Lord Belmonent asks Bernard to drink the water prepared for Lady Mulataria's treatment. Bernard refuses, and when the Lord splashes it, Bernard recoils, screaming, "It's poison!" Lord Belmonent drinks it himself, proving the water is harmless, and exposing the butler Bernard as Mulataria's poisoner. Bernard is arrested. Lord Belmonent immediately receives a ciphered letter, and a look of shock crosses his face. The encoded letter is discovered in Bernard's room. Meanwhile, in Asheth, Ngash visits to forcibly take all the Ivor with his hired thugs. A guard reveals the chief is with the adventurers, and they know the flower is poison. Ngash announces a change of plans. They will finish the village now. Takeru and his party, escorted by the chief, arrive at the field with the horse statue and the Ivor flowers. Takeru exclaims, "We have found the divine flowers." Deep inside a dark cave, the village elder led Takeru and Clay to a beautiful underground lake. Here, beside a horse statue, grew the golden Ibur flowers. Takeru sat down and used his scan spell on the flower. The scan revealed that the Ibur garden is guarded by a legendary beast. The chief explained that this was Hofulnir, their village guardian, who long ago saved them from a lake demon. As the chief mentioned the myth that the Ibur flowers grew from Hofal's tears, Takeru wondered if it was right to take such precious herbs. The elder insisted, seeing Takeru as the village's savior, and gave his approval. After thanking him, Takeru cut a flower with his scissors, excited to make the antidote and test the strange soy fruit he had found earlier. The calm was instantly broken when a villager rushed toward them in a panic, alerting them that an attack was underway. Takeru and Clay rushed back to Ashisu village. Upon arrival, they found the buildings burning and ruined. Takeru quickly commanded B to put out the flames while Clay evacuated the villagers. Once the fires were out, they were relieved to find no one was seriously hurt. A villager explained that this devastation followed the visit of the merchant, Ingash. When the village refused to give him more of the Ibur flowers, Ingash went rogue and set the entire village on fire. Hearing this, Takeru clenched his fist in rage. The elder then revealed that the boy, Ganza, was missing. An old lady confirmed that Ingash's subordinates had kidnapped him, fleeing toward the lake. Using his enhanced search skill, Takeru quickly located the villains inside an abandoned fortress. Though the chief warned them, Takeru reassured him that Clay, an A-rank adventurer, would certainly bring Ganza back. Outside the fortress, Takeru and Clay waited in the bushes. B flew to a window and returned with intel. The bandits were shamelessly having a celebratory party inside. Hearing the thieves rejoice after burning a helpless village sent Clay flying into a rage. Transforming into his dragon form, he prepared to destroy them. Takeru calmed him down, pointing out that a reckless charge could put Ganza at risk. Clay, frustrated but realizing Takeru was right, suggested a concealment technique. Using their magic, Takeru and Clay infiltrated the fortress, quietly knocking out a drunk guard. While searching the bandits' storage for evidence of poison, they heard the bandits laughing upstairs, mocking the village and revealing Ingash's true, malicious plan. The bandits boasted they would use Ganza as a hostage to get the Ibur flowers. Their discussion turned to exploiting Lord Belmonant's wife's poisoning, intending to spread the news globally to market Ibur as a rare, untreatable poison and sell it for huge profits to assassins. Takeru finally understood why the merchant was so interested in the flower. Clay, now restless with fury, was given the command to obliterate the bandits without killing them. Clay burst through the main door, terrifying the thieves. Seeing his subordinates overwhelmed by the dragon, Ingash decided to escape. He ordered a goon to retrieve a secret weapon. Suddenly, the invisible Takeru, impersonating a bandit, tricked Ingash into revealing Ganza was safely secured in an outer building. Outside, Takeru located Ganza in a guarded room. B quickly dispatched the guard with a swift headbutt. Takeru broke the lock by hardening his hand, and Ganza ran into his arms crying in relief. The bandits outside panicked, fleeing from a terrifying monster, a giant sea anemone, the secret weapon summoned by Ingash. Takeru scanned it and found it was only a B-rank demon. He rushed back inside to help Clay, who was struggling against the creature's endlessly regenerating tentacles. Takeru used an ice breath skill to freeze the demon's entire body and instructed Clay to aim for the brain between its two red eyes. Clay struck with a powerful punch, but the demon was only enraged, unleashing an army of tentacles. The attack blew Takeru and Ganza out of the fortress. Takeru managed to toss Ganza to B before falling into the poisonous lake below. As he sank through the toxic water, Takeru lamented that he might die, but realized his body had acted on its own to save the boy. He heard a woman's voice from the void, but stubbornly ignored it while dwelling on his fate. Finally, she yanked him out of the water. Takeru saw a flying horse holding him, the legendary Hofulnir. Hofulnir showed Takeru that the lake had turned a pure blue color, explaining that Takeru's magic had purified the water. She revealed that centuries ago, she used all her power to create the Ibur flower to absorb the lake's poisonous magic, turning herself into the stone statue. Takeru's recent absorption of the poison had restored her power. After accepting her thanks, Hofalnir returned Takeru to Clay and Ganza, then transformed into a burst of light. Back at Belmainant's mansion, Takeru and Clay used a doctor from the Adventurers Guild to create the Eber antidote. Takeru gave the liquid to Lady Miluetta. She improved instantly. Takeru confirmed via scan that the poisoning was completely cured. The good news brought Tuss to tears, and the whole family wept in celebration. Afterward, Takeru returned to the village to help rebuild. He reassured the chief that Ingosh was safely in the custody of the territory lord. The grateful chief asked how to repay him, and Takeru asked only to collect the Eber flowers for future antidotes. He then showed the chief his true reward. He cooked a potato and poured a sauce over it made from the villagers' bitter discarded Lidis fruit. The chief immediately fell in love with the taste. Takeru revealed the sauce was soy sauce and proposed a business deal, buying the seemingly useless Lidis fruits in bulk and selling the resultant soy sauce as a Belsim village specialty. Finally, while riding out of the village, Takeru admitted he was exhausted. He looked at the sun and thought he was hallucinating when he saw Hofalnir materialize beside him. Clay saw her too. Hofalnir landed and, transforming into a woman, declared she was tired of being stuck in the village and wanted to travel the world with him. Though Clay objected, Hofalnir reminded Takeru he needed a horse anyway. Takeru nodded, but thought it was too much to use a legendary beast like a common mount. Hofalnir didn't seem to mind, and happily told Takeru he can go wherever he wants with her, cementing her place as a new, legendary pain in the rear end. A few days later, Takeru went to visit Gralis, seeking to commission another pair of superior harvesting scissors. The master blacksmith immediately boasted that his latest sword had won a prestigious competition, crediting Takeru's supply of high-quality Ildrite ore. Gralis, eager to return the favor, was thrilled to create the finest gathering scissors Takeru could imagine. Leaving the shop, Takeru found Hofalnir waiting impatiently. Though he appreciated her companionship, her mischievous streak showed when she asked if she should whip Gralis to speed up his work. Takeru quickly diverted her, and Hofalnir settled for simply demanding food. This soon led to an amusing squabble with B, who also wanted a snack. Their bickering was interrupted by Grit, who invited Takeru to the Adventurers Guild for an urgent discussion. Inside, Grit explained that the guild was preparing for its annual gathering competition. While Takeru politely declined Ariana's invitation, citing his status as merely a casual gatherer, Grit revealed that Lord Belmainant himself was sponsoring the entire event and specifically requested Takeru's participation. Unable to refuse a friend and benefactor, Takeru reluctantly agreed. Outside the guild days later, the guildmaster announced the event was sponsored by Belmainant as a recovery gift for Lady Miluetta. The objective for the competitors was to collect 7-colored wool from the rare rainbow sheep. Takeru, despite his gathering skills, was surprised he hadn't heard of the material, which the guildmaster acknowledged was extremely rare and might require extensive research. Critically, the guildmaster forbade any assistance from party members, emphasizing the event's solo spirit. Hearing this rule, Hofalnir realized she couldn't serve as Takeru's mount. After running through the regulations, Clay reluctantly told Takeru he would have to go alone, which shocked poor B. Takeru reassured them, confident in his magic, but when Clay suggested using teleportation magic to cheat the search, Takeru refused, reasoning that such blatant use of high-tier magic would only cause trouble and create sore losers. The guildmaster announced the start of the competition, but B, desperate not to be separated, refused to leave Takeru's side. Hofalnir calmly pulled the baby dragon off and used her mana to lull him to sleep, instructing Takeru to compete without worry and leave the baby dragon in her care. Takeru sprinted straight to the library, where he quickly skimmed through books until he found information confirming that the rainbow sheep inhabited the remote Mount Takarana. He immediately headed to the location. Reaching the towering mountain, Takeru realized he had a demanding climb ahead to reach the sheep at the summit. Feeling anxious about embarking on a quest without B for the first time, Takeru ironically imagined B stress-eating and getting fat back at the guild, a thought which amused him. Meanwhile, back in the city, B sadly munched on a sandwich, still stressed. Hofalnir asked why he was worried, noting Takeru's strong protection barrier. but then boastfully claimed she would have been much more useful to him as a horse. This declaration angered B, who considered himself Takeru's primary mount. Hofelnir stood up, ready to prove her speed, but Clay swiftly intervened, reminding her that everyone already acknowledged she was the fastest, a compliment that placated her. Clay then complimented B's agility as well, which finally settled the tense argument. Although relieved that the two powerful beasts had calmed down, Clay was worried about having to handle them for long without Takeru's help. Takeru, unaware of the drama, ate a hot bowl of gyoza that night before sleeping. The next morning, Takeru successfully reached the peak and found the rainbow sheep grazing peacefully. Knowing that the small animals are quick to run, he wondered how to capture them. Takeru decided to speak sheepish, magically attracting the entire flock. With their undivided attention, Takeru asked the sheep for their wool. A pink sheep, trusting and eager to be sheared, hopped right onto his lap. Takeru gently used a comb to collect the wool, quickly followed by the rest of the flock, who willingly offered their colorful bounty. After collecting the required amount, Takeru started heading back home. During his descent, he paused, noticing a majestic dragon flying nearby, and wondered if B would grow up to look just as magnificent. Upon Takeru's return, B immediately awoke and clung to him, crying as if Takeru had just survived a war. Shortly thereafter, the guildmaster announced Takeru's victory and promoted him to FB rank. Takeru was initially confused by the rank, but the guildmaster explained it allowed him to accept gathering or adventuring quests ranging all the way from F rank to B rank. Although Takeru seemed to consider focusing purely on gathering, the guildmaster strongly cautioned him against consistently over-delivering on product quality. He warned that selling materials far superior to what clients paid for would severely crash the local market. Takeru was shaken by the advice, but the guildmaster clarified that he and the rest of the guild rooted for him and didn't want to see his high-quality work undervalued. Pondering their sincerity, Takeru considered accepting more official quests for the guild. Clay quickly told him to make up his mind, and Hofelnir added that he easily deserved the special rank. With both friends urging him, Takeru finally accepted the FB rank ring. As he took it, the guildmaster expressed his hope for Takeru's future contributions. Suddenly, a commotion started as Ariana burst in, announcing that a forest worm had appeared near the main road. Now formally recognized as an adventurer, Takeru immediately headed out with Clay to confront the monster. Upon arrival, the party waited, and soon the massive worm crawled into view, towering over them like a skyscraper. As they prepared to engage, a familiar voice called out to Takeru from atop the worm's head. Brolight, who was using the monster as a mount. After she greeted Takeru, Clay, and B, Brolight dismounted, but Takeru swiftly deployed his clean spell to eliminate her terrible stink. He asked why she was riding such a huge beast, and she explained that she brought it from her homeland specifically as a gift for Takeru to use as a mount. Takeru, seeing the filthy monster, used his clean spell on it too, which terrified the worm, causing it to instantly burrow away. Takeru explained to Brolight that such large monsters were unsuitable mounts, prompting her to wonder if she should find a horse instead. Hofelnir quickly interjected, saying he didn't need one. Takeru then invited Brolight back to the city to explain everything. After treating her to a feast, Takeru explained his adventures since their last meeting, including forming a party with Clay and meeting Hofelnir. Brolight asked if she could join their party, and Takeru agreed immediately. Brolight proudly revealed her A-rank adventurer ring, surprising Clay, who she assured worked hard to achieve it. While Clay was excited to spar with Brolight, Hofelnir sensed Brolight had a pure soul, finding her spirit soothing. When Hofelnir began to refer to Brolight by a secret identity, Brolight quickly asked her to keep it private, which Hofelnir agreed to. Takeru then asked Brolight the real reason she needed his help. She revealed that her sister, Ludakara, the village priestess, had fled their homeland. Due to Ludakara's sacred role, village tradition required her to marry an elf to produce powerful children, but she refused to marry a random smelly man. Ludakara promised she would only accept the arranged marriage if she was given a beautiful white horse as a gift. Sadly, by the time Brolight finally procured the horse, Ludakara had already disappeared to get milk. Though Takeru felt uncomfortable with the seriousness of the situation, Brolight convinced him that he was the perfect person to find her sister. Takeru reminded Brolight that if he brought Ludicara back, she would be forced into a marriage she hated. Brolight clarified that she wasn't seeking to force her sister's return, only to understand why she had disappeared without a word. Understanding Brolight's sincere feelings, Takeru agreed to help and asked Clay and Hofulnir to join the quest. Both agreed without hesitation. Brolight then led them toward the elven village, explaining that they would find it once they stumbled across a forest that met specific conditions. Takeru was baffled that she could simply use any forest to travel home, but Brolight explained that she uses elven magic to manipulate space, creating a gateway to her homeland. Through certain points in the world, a process Takeru noted sounded similar to his own teleportation spell. Hofulnir excitedly offered to get everyone to the target forest at lightning speed. Transforming into her majestic horse form, she instantly captivated Brolight. They all enjoyed a comfortable, fast ride into the forest's depths. Upon arriving, Brolight used a summon spell to create a small, swirling vortex, the portal to her land. She instructed everyone to touch the vortex and close their eyes before entering. Brolight stepped through first, Clay and B followed, but Takeru hesitated, unnerved by the spatial gateway. Before he could enter, Hofulnir warned him to keep a close eye on Brolight, hinting that she carried painful secrets despite her cheerful demeanor. Hofulnir then passed through, leaving Takeru alone. He finally summoned his courage, touched the portal, and was sent through a spatial vortex into a vast, breathtaking elven land. Takeru admired the beautiful landscape, only to be met by his angry companions, beaten up from waiting so long. Before Takeru could ask what happened, arrows suddenly shot out at them. Takeru blocked the shots with a shield, and Brolight frantically asked him not to attack, realizing the archers were her own villagers. Soon, several elven villagers approached them, visibly angry that Brolight had returned. Meanwhile, deep within a dark cave, a small team of elf scouts discovers a peculiar monument. One scout reads an ancient prophecy inscribed there, which foretells that when the elves eventually lose their noble bloodline, an outsider will appear to revitalize their lands with new strength. Back with the party, Brolight attempts to persuade the lead elf that Takeru's group intends to assist them in searching for her missing sister. However, the elf criticizes her for violating their laws by bringing what he refers to as disgusting foreigners into their sacred territory. Enraged by the insult, Hofulnir steps forward to challenge the elf, revealing her true identity as a legendary beast. She screams at them for disrespecting her pride, and as the sky darkens with her fury, Hofulnir transforms into her horse form, striking the elves with a powerful burst of thunder. Her lightning causes a visible shock, and the elves immediately apologize for showing disrespect to a godlike entity. While Hofulnir remains infuriated, Takeru realizes they cannot understand her in her horse form because her magical power is overwhelming the communication. The elves then address Hofulnir, asking the reason for her visit, prompting Takeru to step in and explain. Since they maintain a cautious distrust of humans, the elves remain guarded. To alleviate their concerns, Takeru shows them his Adventurers Guild ring and confirms that Brolight is an official member of their party. Satisfied, the elves finally agree to trust them and turn to lead them toward their village. As they proceed into the elven domain, Hofulnir senses an unwelcome presence emanating from the forest. After some travel, they arrive at a large lake centered around an enormous tree. As everyone observes the sight, Lil instructs them to purify themselves before entering the great tree. However, Clay and Takeru detect that the surrounding air is severely contaminated by mana. Because the toxic air is causing palpable discomfort, Takeru casts a full-power clean spell, successfully eradicating all the poisonous mana. Even Takeru is surprised by the potency of his spell, while the elves are left bewildered by what just transpired. Following this, Brolight leads the group upward into the great tree. She explains that the tree is named Gowan and serves as the emblem of the elven homeland. Brolight then discloses that only high elves are permitted to guide others to the tree's summit, confusing the group until she reveals that she is, in fact, a high elf. Feeling guilt over not having disclosed her royal heritage earlier, Brolight's hesitation makes Takeru wonder why her status is such a problem. She explains that high elves are forbidden from traveling outside their territory, meaning her entire adventure was a transgression of their laws. Clay adds that high elves are fundamentally expected to safeguard the purity of their elven bloodline. Takeru asks if Brolight's past travels resulted in the death of any relatives, but she assures him no one was harmed. He concludes that if no one suffered, things should be acceptable. He reminds her that she ventured out for love and assures her that minor bending of the rules was understandable. This eases Brolight, who, reflecting on her family, agrees that Takeru may be reasonable. He suggests that ancient rules might be outdated for the present, a point Clay supports. Hofalnir, meanwhile, pointedly states that high elves are a secluded, self-absorbed group who deliberately ignore the rest of the world. Seeing Brolight distressed, Bee rushes over to comfort her, and Brolight begins to weep, touched by their support. Witnessing her breakdown, Takeru realizes the immense burden she carried by admitting she had essentially committed a crime in the eyes of her people. Brolight then guides everyone deeper into the tree where they pass through a door leading to the High Elven Palace. Inside, a woman named Amber greets them. Brolight requests an audience with her brother, and Amber escorts them to a private room. Takeru and the others are offered fresh elf tea while they await Brolight's brother to arrive. Moments later, Brolight's older brother enters. She rushes forward for a hug, but he skillfully avoids her embrace. Takeru is shocked to realize this small elf is Brolight's elder sibling. Brolight introduces him as Arjun Seal, but Takeru struggles with the full pronunciation. Seeing his difficulty, Arjun invites him to use any name he prefers, and Takeru settles on the nickname R. Arjun accepts with a smile. He then walks over to Hofalnir to offer his formal respect, stating that her visit honors all elven lands. After acknowledging Hofalnir, Arjun shakes Takeru's hand, whose frail appearance surprises Takeru. Noticing Takeru's reaction, Arjun asks if Takeru is perhaps uncomfortable seeing someone of such short stature. Takeru awkwardly denies minding, and Arjun admits that despite the High Elves' grand posturing, they are all afflicted by a curse that results in their small height. Brolight finds his constant focus on the matter upsetting, and tells him to stop dwelling on it. However, Arjun cuts her off, insisting that their bloodline is doomed, regardless of her feelings. The mention of the curse alarms Takeru while Brolight bursts into tears, asserting that she is doing everything possible to lift the affliction from their lineage. Arjun calms her down and apologizes to Takeru's group for his younger brother's sudden emotional display. Takeru accepts the apology, but is abruptly struck by the fact that Arjun referred to Brolight as his brother. Stunned, Takeru questions the meaning, and Brolight proudly clarifies that while she is outwardly female, she also possesses male attributes. The rest of the group remains perfectly composed about this revelation, leaving Takeru perplexed by their lack of reaction. Clay explains that having dual genders is not unheard of among lizard men, so the news does not shock him. Arjun sighs, adding that Brolight inherited this trait as part of the elves' curse. Considering the curse, Takeru asks Arjun why the mana surrounding the great tree feels so extraordinarily dense. Arjun is surprised Takeru can detect it and explains that the mana has been intensifying for approximately 6 months. Takeru then asks if he might be able to offer assistance, leading Arjun to escort the group outside to an open space. There, Takeru begins to form a magic stone using his own mana, catching Arjun entirely by surprise. The elf guards behind them warn Arjun to distance himself. Despite the warnings, Arjun remains beside Takeru, who finishes forming the stone. Takeru asks him to place his hand on it and say, "Start." Arjun agrees, but the guards rush forward to pull him away. Nonetheless, he successfully activates the massive stone, which ascends into the air, radiating a brilliant green light. As the luminous green stone spins, releasing purified mana, it cleanses the environment, eliminating all lingering toxic mana. Soon after, everyone finds their breathing much easier, and Takeru is pleased with the outcome. Brolight then glances at Arjun, who suddenly recalls the elven prophecy about an outsider restoring their land. Seeing Takeru's confusion, Arjun takes him to the elven shrine. Once there, Takeru comprehends the entire prophecy after a single reading, astonishing Arjun. Focusing on the part about the elves losing their noble bloodline, Takeru begins to question its meaning. Arjun believes it refers to the curse placed on the High Elves, which causes Takeru to wonder if the prophecy's outsider might actually be him. Despite Arjun nodding, Takeru thinks he doesn't truly fit the prophecy because he merely purified the air, not the land itself. However, he does accept that the outsider must originate from a different lineage. Later, while bathing with clay and bro light, Takeru continues to reflect on the prophecy's underlying message. Remembering they still haven't located Brolight's sister, he decides that solving the prophecy must become his highest priority. After the bath, Brolight steps outside to enjoy the fresh air, and Takeru joins her. When he asks about the elven curse, Brolight remains silent. Just then, Amber approaches them from behind, offering to explain everything. Amber informs Takeru that the curse is a strange chronic illness that has rapidly spread among the High Elves. She notes that the disease first appeared in High Elf children several generations ago. However, about 50 years ago, the condition mysteriously worsened significantly, affecting their lives much more severely than before. Amber reveals that many newborn elven babies now do not survive longer than a week, leaving Takeru to question the disease's possible cause. Tragically, Amber doesn't know the cause either, and she breaks into tears, recalling her own baby's death and fearing the end of her entire race. While Brolight comforts Amber, Takeru considers how to solve this medical mystery. Sometime later, he meets the elven queen Melseria, who is immediately taken aback by the unusual color of Takeru's aura. Since Takeru is unaware of what she means, Melseria examines the hue of his mana closely. Before long, she notices B perched on his shoulder and instantly recognizes that Takeru is the most powerful being in their world, personally chosen by an ancient dragon. Excited by the recognition, B flies out to greet the queen. Melseria then thanks Takeru for purifying their land. He accepts her gratitude and asks if an earthquake a few months prior might have caused the mana in the air to thicken. The queen nods, surprised that Takeru correctly identified the cause, confirming that an earthquake was indeed responsible. Takeru then begins to suspect that the concentrated mana might have been triggered by the emergence of a powerful monster. Arjun asks the queen what their next course of action should be, prompting her to request Takeru's help with the situation. He agrees, but mentions he has one final request. The following day, Takeru gathers the group for a discussion. He uses a magic item to activate a soundproof barrier, ensuring their conversation remains confidential. Takeru announces that he has identified the source of the curse on the elven bloodline. He reveals that Amber, Melseria, and Arjun are all suffering from genetic disorders. Stunned by the revelation, Takeru asks Brolight about Amber's husband. Brolight reveals that Amber is married to her twin brother, allowing Takeru to piece together the entire issue. He explains that the elves are not actually cursed. They are suffering from genetic disorders caused by inbreeding. In their focused effort to maintain a pure bloodline, the High Elves consistently married close relatives, which ultimately led to this problem. Realizing this, Takeru understands that the prophecy was not about him being the outsider, but about the need for an individual of a different bloodline to revive the elves. He concludes that the elves can easily restore their health by marrying outsiders and introducing new blood to eliminate these genetic defects. When he proposes marrying elves from different countries, Brolight is astonished by the simplicity of the solution. Overwhelmed by the possibility of saving her race, she begins to cry tears of joy. However, Clay points out that the elves might be resistant to abandoning their centuries-old traditions based solely on their advice. Brolight thinks Arjun and her mother would readily listen, but Takeru wonders how to persuade the rest of the elven population. Ultimately, he asks Hofalnir to deliver his message with a stern warning, given the great respect the elves hold for her. Hofalnir questions his eagerness to help so many people, asking if Takeru is attempting to save the entire world for no personal gain. He responds that he is merely helping Brolight because she is his friend. Hofalnir agrees to deliver the message, assuring Brolight that she will help save her people. She then turns to Takeru and demands a massive reward in return, making him curious about what she could possibly desire. In the end, Hofalnir requests a substantial amount of buttered potatoes. Hofalnir proposes that they attempt to reach Libelania, the deity who governs and protects the elves. Without hesitation, she shifts into her horse form, and Bee climbs onto her back. The two of them fly off together, hoping to make contact despite the overwhelming mana pollution saturating the area. After some time, Hofvalpnir and Bee return, and their expressions immediately reveal that something is wrong. Hofvalpnir explains that she couldn't sense Libelania anywhere, not even faintly. The group concludes that the dense mana may be interfering with the deity's ability to communicate or reveal her presence. Wanting more information, Takeru decides to ask around town. Through Brolight, he learns about the Daimos Adventurer Guild, a well-known and highly respected guild among elves. Clayston recognizes the name and explains that the guild is famous, but notoriously secretive, often referred to as a phantom guild because of how little outsiders know about its operations. The group decides to visit, hoping the guild might have insight into the strange mana or information about Libelania's disappearance. Inside, they are greeted by the guildmaster, Agara, whose calm confidence sets the tone of the hall. While reviewing the request board, Takeru finds a posting for a rare material called cat ear mushrooms. Agara tells them the mushrooms grow deep inside Kieto Hollow, but warns them that the hollow has become extremely unstable due to a dangerous buildup of toxic mana. Because Brolight knows the area well, he volunteers to guide them. Before the group departs, Takeru prepares a set of enhanced magic tool potions specifically designed to protect them from the poisonous mana they will face inside the hollow. The following morning, they travel toward Kieto Hollow, riding on Hofvalpnir's back. As they approach the lake marking the hollow's entrance, they notice the bodies of powerful monsters lying motionless along the ground, all victims of the intense mana pollution. The air grows so dense with toxicity that both Brolight and Clayston collapse almost immediately, unable to withstand it. Takeru rushes forward and casts Clean, clearing the poisonous mana from the immediate area long enough for everyone to recover. He instructs the party to activate the protective potions he created. Once activated, each potion emits a soft glow, indicating that the protective enchantment is in effect. Hofvalpnir shrinks into her small fairy form so that she can remain within the radius of Clayston's protection barrier. They move cautiously into the cave, but the moment they advance deeper, a massive swarm of spiders adapted to the toxic environment ambushes them. The battle is fierce and chaotic, with the spiders emerging from walls and ceilings, attacking relentlessly. Takeru orders the group to fall back toward a larger open chamber where they have more room to maneuver. Once they reach it, he unleashes Desperate Barrier. The spell erupts outward in a devastating burst, obliterating the entire colony of spiders and even blowing a hole in the cave ceiling. The raw force of the spell leaves Clayston stunned, unable to comprehend the scale of power Takeru just displayed. As the group pauses to eat and recover, Brolight explains that they are only halfway through the hollow. He tells them that deeper inside lies an altar of foreign design, an eerie structure that predates most known elven history. They continue their descent until they reach a vast chamber illuminated faintly by clusters of giant cat ear mushrooms. Before they can gather the ingredients, a crushing pressure fills the air. The cave trembles as a massive creature approaches. Emerging from the shadows is a gigantic Kyodo Dark Slug, an S-rank monster mutated by the poisonous environment. Its presence alone is said to be capable of destroying entire kingdoms. Despite its overwhelming size, Takeru refuses to run. He calmly explains that the creature is vulnerable to fire, which makes Bee their strongest asset in this fight. Clayston shifts into his dragonkin form, readying his spear for combat. Takeru raises a triple-layered shield around the entire group and casts several buffs to strengthen their defenses. Even with these precautions, the monster proves incredibly difficult to fight. Its regeneration is almost instantaneous, and its antennae allow it to sense their movements with eerie precision. Realizing this is the key, Takeru instructs Brolight to target the antennae. Brolight charges forward and successfully destroys them, momentarily disrupting the slug's senses. Bee seizes the opportunity and unleashes a massive burst of fire, but to their frustration, the attack still isn't enough to finish the creature. Takeru quickly analyzes the situation and realizes the problem lies in the slug's moist skin, which protects it from heat and damage. To weaken the monster, he crafts balls of high-quality salt using his magic and throws them at the slug. The salt dissolves large portions of its skin, stripping away its natural defenses and revealing softer tissue beneath. Injured and desperate, the slug attempts to flee deeper into the cave, but Clayston intercepts it and drives his spear straight through its body, finally killing the S-rank threat. As they make their way back toward the entrance, they discover hundreds of slug eggs scattered throughout the chamber. Takeru examines them and realizes that the embryos will die if exposed to sunlight. Using his magic, he forms a massive sphere of artificial ultraviolet light and releases it across the chamber. The eggs shrivel and die instantly, preventing what could have been a catastrophic outbreak. Immediately afterward, a strange wind blows from deeper within the cave. Hofalpnir closes her eyes, then announces that the toxic mana has vanished, and that Libelania is finally calling out to them again, concluding the episode. And that's it for this week. Please like and subscribe for more recaps, and as always, thank you for your support.